I'm Origin. We're doing Human in the Loop with Inner Strategies. She was nice enough to come out this morning and spend some time with us. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Why Inner Strategies? When did you know that you were going to need those? Like, how did you arrive at that?
Okay, so yeah, I'm in a strategy. Um, so I chose this name because basically I like to look at the architecture of the systems within us as opposed to systems on the outside of us.
Right.
So, most people are taught the external strategies like, how to do a really good CV, how to market yourself, how to brand yourself. And I feel like there are less people teaching how to recognize your inner game, your inner strategy, what's going on there, and, how to recognize whether, the system outside is directly correlating to something inside you and it's affecting something directly inside you. Like, we are not to blame all the time for everything.
Right.
Sometimes the stuff outside and the people outside or the media outside or whatever, like governments and health and whatever. Like, there is so much happening outside, but we need to know how to deal with that better for ourselves. Yeah.
Right.
And I've always loved writing. From a young age, I always wanted to write. And I have this kind of like contrarian voice in my head that's like always rattling off about stuff. So it might not necessarily be me, but
Right.
she's always going off about something or the other, or if something doesn't sound right, or something doesn't feel right, or like just doesn't really make sense to me. So she's always kind of like um making her own assumptions. So I thought I would love to get that out there and hear what other people have to say about that or what they think about that. Um, but only recently I thought, you know, I could actually do that and people would actually want to know. Because
Yeah.
when I was younger, I had all these like limiting beliefs inside me that can't, I can't, like nobody would want to know. But recently I found Substack and I thought it was just a great platform with so many different writers, creators like yourself.
Thank you.
You're so like-minded and they talk about such great things. Um, Questioning the narrative, going against the grain.
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily that we know everything, but it's a space to have the conversation without being judged or labeled like a conspiracy theorist or,
Yeah.
all the labels that there are.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got on the platform last year and I thought I'm just going to write and see where this takes me. Yeah. So that's where I'm at right now.
Well, that's really awesome. And, I find that developing inner strategies, personal strategies, getting to really know yourself and how your systems work is really, really helpful and can really cut through the noise of stuff. Do you find that even just asking the questions help you to gain clarity or at least some type of peace?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, as humans, we're very curious beings. I
Mhm.
mean, we have this incredible brain, we have this incredible body, and it does so much cool stuff. We don't even know what's going on. Like,
Right.
literally, right? Like, your body's fixing itself. It's like doing some like cleanups and growth, and it's doing all this really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And why not kind of, when you see something and it's labeled as X, like, why does it necessarily have to be X? It's not necessarily X for everyone. Everyone has
Right.
a different map of the world. And to ask the question, like, could that be that? Or is it that? Or like, who benefits from that? Or do
Yeah.
different people benefit? Do they benefit in different ways? Like, why not be
Yeah.
curious?
Well, it never hurts to ask a question, and I think that through speaking and creating these spaces that we can find each other within ourselves, and that I always talk about common ground, and
Mm.
that's how I find common ground. And it sounds to me like you've got a bullshit allergy. I that's what I call it whenever I hear something. I'm like, this isn't right. I got to ask questions. And if it doesn't stand up under interrogation, then it's just not the truth,
Yeah. Mm.
and we have to be able to accept sometimes that we're not going to get an answer that we're comfortable with. And
Yeah.
so how do you deal with that discomfort, that moment of friction when it's like, aha,
The friction from other people, or is
Well,
it the
just
friction with myself?
both. I mean, what do you find to be most compelling there? Like, what drives you to that?
Um, I think it's just it's sometimes I read things or I find things out and I'm like, this is just not okay. Like I've been living my whole life back to front. It's like I'm 29 now and I'll find out things like this week and I'll be like, damn, like 29 years thinking it was this and it actually wasn't that the whole time. A lot of the time it's like in the medical field and you're like, oh, they told us that this was really bad for you and you shouldn't be doing this. But then actually the very thing they told you was bad for you was actually really good for you. And you're like, for God's sake, like seriously.
Yeah.
But um it's kind of got to a point where it's the system was designed for you to feel kind of downtrodden and given like give up and just kind of be so programmed in the way it is that you just carry on.
Hmm.
And the fact that you have come to this part, whatever age you are, and you've seen the truth or seen something very close to the truth is quite liberating because some people go through their whole life and will never know,
Yeah.
right? Some people they just think it's this way and then they'll never even till the day they die realize what happened.
Right.
So I think I've kind of framed it in my mind that I'm grateful to find that out now that I can now go and make better decisions from tomorrow or from next week.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on and sharing, I mean, because dissenting voices matter so much, because we do push the questioning of the narrative. And, conspire means to breathe together in ancient Greek. So
Mm.
we've got to get rid of this stigma about conspiracy theories and tinfoil hats and all of that stuff, because we have to ask these questions. And if these questions are being asked, it's because there's this gray zone. There's not enough data. And so, humans, we plug in information.
Mm.
So, what information did you plug in before versus now? And how do you stick to the strategies that you have come up with?
So sticking to the new strategies is really difficult. I'm not going to lie. There is so much externally in the systems. Like we could look at just from the films we watch, the music we listen to like the books we read, like fiction, nonfiction, um, down to like TV and like the colors and the frequencies and it's everywhere. It's so difficult to get away from it. And it's almost worse knowing the truth because you're like over like almost analysis paralysis where you just can't you just
Yeah.
want to get away from it, but you just can't. And there's just so many like moving parts. Um it's hard. Sometimes I slip back into old strategies and just like slug out or have the wrong food or listen to crap music. But I think it's having that empathy with yourself that you are more on like the 80-20 side or the 90-10 side or even the 70-30 sometimes and just kind of little baby steps towards that
Right.
those changes and also talking to other people like this conversation will make such a huge difference because you kind of almost indirectly with an invisible string keep each other accountable on like even though we're in completely different countries, completely different time zones,
Mhm.
you've had that open, curious, non-judgmental conversation about truth and what better information can you plug in than having
Yeah.
like a really grounded, truthful conversation. We might not agree on everything. We might disagree on some things. We might have completely different views.
Yeah.
But the fact that you have this really safe space to have a conversation about different learnings, different things, that's that's incredible, I think.
Well, thank you. I just, it's really, I'm a parent, I feel, because I see things, I feel an obligation. I can't shut up. I gotta ask the question. It's like it makes me, it's like a physical discomfort for me. And reading back through the comments, and Velvet Hour was talking about that. they felt like they had a bullshit allergy to, and Alexi definitely, never expect answers. But sometimes just asking the question and then providing the room to explore that is enough. Because now, obviously, we're not going to get answers to everything, but I think that it's really important that we do project that question and allow other people to think about it as well. Because I don't have a lot of answers, but I do think that we need to have spaces unilaterally where we can just come together and go, "Hey, this smells like dead fish. What's up?"
Yeah.
And if we're wrong, then cool. We found out some more information. Like weighing, I don't know how you weigh information, but a lot of people are, very bipolar with it, good, bad. And it's like,
Mm.
no, it's all data and it all plugs in. So, I mean, how do you vet your data? Like, do you when you've got that itch that you can't scratch, what do you do about it?
So the first thing is to get to the space where you're having the itch. I think so. One thing in neurolinguistic programming is that sometimes you have very kind of somatic feelings. Like your brain is wired for survival, so it's going to just take information and think like, is this going to kill me? Is it not? What do I do? But like, it's just really very unstable, very smart, very intelligent. Like
Yeah.
does so much cool stuff, but it's very um unstable sometimes.
Mhm.
But you'll notice, like with a lot of decisions, like have you ever had a time where you were about to do something and you just had this really bad feeling, like in your body, and you're like, this doesn't feel right, but you just go ahead and do it anyway because you got to do what you got to do, right? But then something happened and you're like, well, I actually kind of knew this was going to go wrong,
Yeah.
right? And that feeling that we have in our somatic system is so important because it normally, like this system, normally knows way before this system that something is right, wrong, doesn't add up, whatever. And I think that for me plays like listening to that system and really trusting that and saying like, okay, there's something doesn't feel right about this. So then following that, I will then dig deeper and I will look at loads of stuff. There is not necessary. I can't necessarily check that whoever wrote certain things and or if it's legitimate or is it like AI. Like you can AI generate like pretty much everything now. So it's like you got to check like who wrote it, like
Yeah.
who were they, what was their background,
Mm.
and who benefits from having that document there and it's saying what it says and who did what with that. Like it's a really long process. And when I do write stuff, I'm almost always open for somebody to challenge me. I want someone to challenge me. Like, show me something I don't know.
For
Tell
sure.
me that something I looked at was wrong. Tell me the data's wrong. Like, I want to know. Because
Mhm.
a lot of the time you can't even trust like books and like who wrote those books, right? And
Yeah.
who were they involved with and why did they write them? So yeah, like I will go on as much as I can find, but I really do welcome people to show me other stuff, you know.
Right. But at the end of the day, you're gonna trust your gut.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, the gut instinct thing is another stigma. A lot of people are like, maybe you shouldn't trust your gut. And I'm like, but
Mhm.
isn't that where your thought process starts? Like, so how do you because you were talking about your inner voice being, really strong, and I have one of those too, but I've talked to people that don't have that dialogue with themselves, and like, how how can you develop that and, be able to trust yourself? Because there's so much doubt and disconnection, and we live in this malaise of either it's good information or it's not, but everybody seems to be pretty radicalized. I mean, so like when you're not doing your research and stuff, how do you like decompress and stay true to that voice?
Um, it's so like the first thing, like what you said, like a lot of people they don't have that conversation with themselves. I think that is a major fault of the external systems of like dumbing us down, making us
Uh-huh.
numb, the food we eat, the stuff we listen to. the music, the stories that are through movies, like the not the like the not the main story of like he did that, she did that, but behind that, what is the narrative that's behind that? It's we're all being programmed so much that a lot of people can't hear that in a
Right.
conversation with themselves. Um, I don't know if like meditation and stuff like that helps because you get into a space where you have to just shut up. You just literally have to shut up and you only have to listen. The only thing you have to listen to is you and your thoughts,
Right.
right? And that is meditation without music, nothing, like no humming, no nothing. And just sitting there and listening to yourself and really kind of bringing that relationship and that consciousness back,
Yeah.
you know? So I think that really helps. What was the second part of your question? I completely forgot.
Like, where do you go, like, to reinforce that for yourself? I mean, if you're having difficulties and, you were talking about that sometimes you digress and stuff, how do you really pull yourself forward within the system, to stay true?
So, like I mentioned earlier, with the sun, I think going back to roots of like really natural things really helped me. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I used to not get out in the sun a lot when I was younger. And this was talking like 10 years ago.
Mhm.
But in the last like 3, 4 years, I have really found that natural stuff. So, like the sun, the sea, the sand, grass, like the most natural forms of earth that you can touch. Even having a fire, like a bonfire with
Oh,
wood
yeah.
and logs, and just sitting in front of it and smelling the smoke and watching the flames, the most purest form of nature. Like, I think if everyone did it, I mean, a lot of people might be like, oh, it's just like whatever, like, okay, cool, sun, take a picture and go. But just sit with it. Like, if the longer you sit with it, the more kind of beautiful it gets and the more you can actually hear yourself. You can hear, like, we are energy, right? So I strongly believe that like we are just one massive energy field. And if we're connected to the earth, which is another massive energy field,
Right.
we're just gonna like transmute all of that,
Mhm.
right? Whereas if you're sitting on like 100th floor high rise in, I don't know why Dubai is coming up, but you know what I mean, like in a very artificial place,
Yeah.
you don't get that. And
Right.
it can feel very like superficial and aesthetic. And that's not what the human body needs. I think we need to go back to roots. We need to go back to nature.
Mhm.
And that is way better than medicine,
Yeah.
way better than like taking like tableted vitamins and what have you, and applying all these creams and stuff to us and hoping that will make a difference like it does. But going back to roots is like the best way for me, I found.
Right. It's I think it's really important to stay connected to self and to the environment. And like when I sit in the sun, if I'm sitting on the ground, which I do all the time, I feel this like draw. If I'm sitting directly in the sun, I can actually feel that just run through me, kind of thing. And it's so peaceful. And I went to Chicago over the summer, right? And, I've been to big cities, I've traveled and stuff, but Chicago was just wow. And we were there during Lollapalooza, and it was just insane. And the first night, I couldn't see the stars.
Mm,
And the moon popped out in between these 2 skyscrapers, and that was the only way I was able to orient myself, and it totally freaked me out. I'm like, "Okay, I can't, I gotta go home." And I was there for 4 more nights, but it was so interesting and uncomfortable to be, in that spot of discomfort, but I knew that I was gonna get to come home.
mm.
But I how do you deal with being disconnected in those artificial spaces? How do you create that space for yourself?
I literally have to. So I was in India a few weeks ago, and my hotel was literally like on the beach.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I would wake up and the first thing I would see is the waves, and I could hear the waves and the sun, and like I haven't been on a holiday like that for years, but I didn't know how much I needed it. Like I think I was so numb from like city life. I live like in the like around buildings and stuff, and I don't even see any like grass because near my house and stuff because it's so built up. But going there, it kind of like somebody had taken a hammer and like broken my shell, and I just saw this completely new world. So I've got to a point, it's like once you can see something great, you can't go back to your old life. So almost so much so that I'm looking at moving country. I want to go somewhere where there's sea. I want to be by a beach, or I want to have grass around me. So I don't even want to like put up with this anymore. I don't want to be in a city. I'm literally like, I need to get out of here, or I
Right.
need to move to, this is kind of, I can't make excuses for not having this. You know what I mean? I'm not going to
Yeah.
get any of this from pavements or like built up buildings and smoke and pollution and like rude people. I just need space. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Um, yeah, the beach, the ocean, all that. Yeah, I lived on the coast for several years, and I do miss the waves. There's something about that rhythm that it just, I don't know, it's so peaceful. And I think, we live in this modern era of artifice, and I think that we have intentionally been disconnected to some degree from our natural selves.
Mhm.
And for whatever reason, I've written about the severing of the soul, and the straw man and all of that stuff. I mean, how are you able to reconnect and really, I mean, because you said that you're 29 and stuff, so you don't really have a memory of what it was like in before the digital age, and 'cause I remember rotary phones, and it hung on the wall and stuff, and I'm not that much, I'm 40. So how do you perceive the past versus where we're going in the future? Do you think that we've done ourselves a disservice carrying around the cell phones and stuff?
Yeah, I do. I think I'm all for like innovation and like pushing the boundaries, um, discovering new stuff. I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, that's what like our brains should push the boundaries. We should come up with new stuff and kind of do it in order to make the world better, to make people's lives better. But I think there are also a certain amount of human beings that don't know where the line is. At what point does it stop being beneficial and it starts being harmful?
Right.
And that stuff getting into the wrong hand. And, there's two sides to every coin. You could do great stuff with like some psychological models, but then on the other side of that, they use the same psychological models to torture people or interrogate people or get them to do things that they wanted them to do without, well, with the least resistance,
Right.
right? And I think I'm lucky at 29. I scraped a bit of just when the internet launched and just when Google and all this stuff happened. Like I was kind of there. So it was kind of, they just created it. They were testing whether it worked, did what it did. There was no real algorithm. It was just kind of neutral, and there was this huge access to information.
Yeah.
And that was great. And then it started going weird. And then you started being shown things, and, based on your kind of behaviors, you showed more stuff. And it just became like quite messy. And you can see even now, like Facebook has, or Meta, or whatever it's called, is like in a lawsuit because of the social media platform of what is being shown, and it's damaging to teenage girls and mental health, and it's getting them to hurt themselves or like commit suicide. So you can see like it's just going a bit too far.
Yeah.
And where's the locus of control? Like who's saying that? Who sets the boundary of like, should we stop here? Or oh no, why not? Let's just keep going and let's just see like how bad it can get. And also if
Yeah.
you don't know this, like if you're not aware of the fact that it can go bad and you need to kind of calibrate with yourself when too much is too much, or when you're kind of losing yourself. That bit's completely missing. So people are just generally kind of going towards it because it's cool and it's different.
Right.
Like it's like a shiny new toy, right? Or a shiny new car. You just like
Yeah.
want to go have fun with it until you realize that actually this isn't doing much for me anymore, and I actually had a better life before the shiny new car. You know?
Yeah. Well, like things have gotten very, very complicated, and the technology, while solving some problems, has complicated a lot of other things. It's really hard, as because again, I grew up without social media. I'm so thankful. I cannot over express how thankful I am that the dumb shit that I did when I was a teenager is not there in perpetuity, because we did dumb stuff. Just and it was fun. We had a great time. We learned
Yep.
lots of things. But now it's like, are you going to be facing the consequences of that down 40, 50 years from now? I mean, it's bad enough that your family remembered, right? But now you've got this whole media organization, and, think about a photograph that's been on Flakebook for the last 15 years. How many views has that one image got?
Mhm.
And how do you even begin to, especially as a young person, how do you safeguard yourself? And I'm this is rhetorical, because obviously, if you're not prepared by society, by your parents, I think that this is, an obligation of the school and the parent, to really prepare our young people to deal with this. Is it worth it? I mean, we're having, problems with suicidal ideation and stuff. And by the way, 988, if anybody needs, support, that's there 24/7, 988. But I mean, is it worth pushing ourselves to the brink for the innovation? Like, what are we forsaking our children to? And I think that it's really important that we speak out for the people that aren't here yet, and Meta, Twitter, these different organizations, I think that they need to be held accountable for the social engineering that they've been doing.
100%.
If you're collecting psychological profiles on millions, potentially billions of people to market to them, that's social engineering. This is psychological profiling. I didn't consent to this, and you guys know more about my shopping habits and stuff like that than I do.
100%. Yeah.
How is that okay? Like, again, this is not consensual, and just because I engaged with using the app doesn't mean that you get to violate the personal sanctity of my mind.
Mm.
Like, that's not okay. So, I mean, like, and I don't know what a good answer is. How do you conscientiously even engage in these platforms? Like, how careful do you have to be not to be giving those pieces of yourself away? And then there's this whole postmortem thing that they've done. So, like, and I haven't verified this for myself, but I have read about it, that Meta, I don't know if it was a copyright or a trademark, but that after you die, and I don't know how they're verifying this, but after you die, that they can use your persona.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if it's not true, even the thought of that, why are we not being guarded from this?
Mm.
So, I don't know if you've watched Upload, it's on Amazon, but it's about digital afterlife extension.
Mm.
And the whole plot, spoiler alert everybody, the whole plot is they kill a bunch of people. They kill poor people, like 10 million poor people, because Uploads cannot vote, but they want them to work. So even after, so this is the type of system that we're dealing with. Again, I have to pose the question, is the innovation worth it? This is talking about the interruption of the ascent of the immortal soul to the next plane of existence. are we gonna mess around with that?
Yeah.
And so I think that we really need to, you know, act locally and think globally. I call people all of the time and give them grief about my digital rights and what they're doing for my children and stuff because it's
Mm.
important. And I think that if enough of us get together and have these kinds of conversations and start asking these questions and tell Mark Zuckerberg he's a git, I maybe they'll take the message. I don't know if anybody, if you there's gotta be a correlation between having that much money and being a certain mental type.
Yeah. Well, I honestly like I believe that with a lot of people, like him and that have these platforms where they're getting so much money. Like the prof like it's not even a question of like looking at bank accounts and like how much money do I have? They're just looking at percentages. Like we have this much profit percentage today. How can we get it to a higher percentage? We're not even talking actual figures. And I don't think they necessarily even care about that. It's more like they've got so much money that it's gone to a stage of like they want something bigger, which is control. Because they want something that most people don't have. How much more control of people and what's the largest kind of percentage of the world population can I control?
Right.
And how much of their freedom can I take away? And it's like I kind of see it as like a massive chessboard. They're just looking at what pieces they can move, where they can move it, and what's the biggest piece they can take. And next to their friend, like from I don't know, what's the other platform? Uh,
Ye
Twitter or whatever.
yeah.
How much more percentage can I take from him and from the other one? And at the top, there's not many of them,
No.
you know. And we're looking at percentages of control. That's what we're looking at. The whole financial system is fake. You know, it
Yeah.
doesn't exist. But
No.
what does exist is people's consciousness.
Mhm.
That's what there is.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you start harnessing that much energy in a digital form or any form, I mean, you think about a gathering of 80,000 people or whatever, I mean, that's so much energy, and how much energy is being harnessed through these platforms?
Mm,
As like human user, I'm talking about my energy going into this, your energy going into this, and we
mm,
get what's the ROI on our investment, I
mm,
mean, I don't know how much time you spend researching and stuff, but I spend a great deal of time in contemplation and I don't get paid for that stuff, and it's okay
mm,
because that's not what it's about for me. Although eating is very nice, but when you've got somebody up here that's taking all of that and then you're just left with, what's left over, it's really hard not to internalize that and stuff. And so, with your inner strategies, I think that that's a really useful tactic to be able to look at yourself and develop systems to deal with the dysregulation that's going on the outside. I tell people all the time that we live in an insane world, and when you live in an insane world, the sane become the insane.
yeah.
Like, and so I think that it's our government's job unilaterally to protect us from bad actors, and I would definitely think that because there's 936 billionaires that currently reside in the United States, and if you do the whole versus power thing, they have like 50 times more power than the voting bloc does.
Mm,
We have no shot at being able to affect any type of change in our own environments. Like, and some days it's just really hard to even deal with that. How as like you were saying, you live in a large city and you want to move somewhere smaller, do you think that the gathering in that large space under the banner of whatever, do you think that that is part of what is causing the dysregulation, like the 10-minute city concept?
Oh, don't get me started on that. Oh my God. Yeah. Um, I think it's definitely, I'm not gonna lie, like I could sit here and say that I am building this kind of inner strategy platform and I'm slowly getting better and I'm getting close to the truth and I'm getting more regulated than I was, unregulated. But it is hard. It is really hard. There are days where it's like, I will have days in a row where I don't write anything or I don't research anything. I don't want to read anything. I don't want to know anything. I just want to go back to the way it was. Like when I was 7 and I was like
Oh, yeah.
trying to attempt to like climb a tree or something. Like, I don't know. I just want to go back to not knowing because I feel like that was a happier place to be.
Right.
But it's trying to find that strength. What is it worth? Like, what are we doing this for? What's our mission? What's your mission? Collectively, what's our mission? What's our purpose here? You
Yeah.
know, and really trying to hold on to that and say, this is what they want to take away from us. They don't want us to have a direction, you know?
Yeah. These conversations are a direct threat to the paradigm,
Mm,
because if you watch the media and you live in the echo chamber, then you feel very disconnected from everybody. But all you have to do is, go hang out somewhere for a little while. And I don't know how it is where you live, but I'm in Oklahoma. And everybody here is like very chatty. You talk to everybody and people open the doors for you still. And, we're polite to each other and stuff. So we don't have to go far, but that's in the smaller rural communities. If you go into Oklahoma City or into Tulsa, it is becoming more disconnected.
mm,
And I find that to be a bit discouraging, but at the same time, if we can reach out and activate each other, I mean, because I kind of feel like we're running a gauntlet right now. And
yeah.
everybody that I know is suffering just, a little bit.
Mm,
Everybody, some more than others, but it seems like the dysregulation has spread, and I just patience. We need to have patience with ourselves
yeah.
and with each other.
Mhm,
We need to be empathetic to ourselves and to each other because we're all going through this together.
mm,
And the only difference between you and I and the people that are sitting here listening to the conversation is a geographical location. We're all made of the same thing.
yeah.
And I so being oh, what Alexi said, old timers say write pop song to expose the arrangement. Right. Yeah. And if I've said this before, if you go back and you listen to music from the 20s and 30s, it's 1920s and 30s. Sorry, we're 100 years past now. Anyway, but you're listening to music from the Great Depression. They were not most of the time. You get into jazz and blues and stuff. Obviously, blues they were pretty depressed, but you listen to the mainstream music. They weren't focused on the depression. It was keep
Mm,
on keeping on, do the thing. And it's not been until, like, the last, I would say, 30 years that we've kinda gotten into that. Well, I think it came around with grunge rock, incidentally, but, that kinda depressed, and then you get into Korn and Limp Bizkit and stuff, and it's
mm,
very dark.
yeah.
And, I grew up listening to all of that stuff. I don't listen to that stuff anymore. Do you d what how did you change? How do you use music and things to moderate how you're feeling?
So I used to listen to, so growing up, I was listening to a lot of rock, kind of electric guitar. Like I didn't go into the full on, really loud, like heavy metal music. I just thought it was a lot of noise. But again, like that is me, my body calibrating and saying, hold on a second, this is too much, right? Like kind of listen to kind of normal guitar and stuff like that. But I had friends that would have this insanely loud, kind of heavy metal noise. And there are some good tracks, but like she had just continuously all the time, whether she was learning, whether she was studying, whether she was sleeping, it was just continuous kind of blaring of music.
Right.
And, I don't know I don't know how much benefit that does for people. Those sound waves on different frequencies, some of those frequencies make you more susceptible to programming. Some of them put you in kind of altered states, make you relax. Some of them get you really emotional and angry. So, like, there is so much going on with music, different types of music.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going off the point a bit, but I think I remember reading something about how there are quite a few songs that if you can play them backwards, there are hidden kind of like affirmations in them that you can only hear if you're playing them backwards.
Right.
So it's like finding out all this stuff just makes you want to listen to nothing. So now I will only really listen to um, softer music, jazz music, preferably stuff without lyrics, because you just makes you kind of wonder, like, you don't know what's going on, what's embedded in these songs.
Yeah.
What, like, they could sound great. I mean, I love music, but you don't really know anymore, do we?
No, and it's like you're saying, you have to trust your body. You have to trust that instinct. If you hit that wall and it makes you uncomfortable, run with that.
Mm.
I had an encounter this past week with some people, and they were talking about K-pop Demon Hunter. I'm like, nah, I don't want to listen to that.
Mm.
And I really offended this one individual a great deal, and they did not come back and speak to me again. They sent someone else to talk to me. I'm sorry, we're in a professional setting. I don't did
Yeah.
not come here to listen to that conversation, and I don't need you polluting my mind.
Yeah.
And it really offended. I don't care. You have to be comfortable with protecting yourself. And that's part of the thing that we've really, really lost is
Mhm.
our personal boundaries, man. You
Yeah.
have to be able to stand up and say, no,
Mhm.
that's not okay.
Yeah.
Just because I'm sorry, I have young children. But this is what they were talking about. That they had played this show at school. They were playing this show in public school. My children don't go to public school.
I'm so
And this
proud.
is why. How are we paying for this to be shown in school? And why are they making this for children?
Yeah.
Seriously, and I don't want to know. There's going to be somebody at some point that's going to say something to me about this and they're going to defend the topic. There's no defense here.
Mm.
There's, there's no defense. This is just straight up indoctrination. And this is making us okay with being empathetic to evil.
Yeah.
How are we empathetic to evil, guys? It's evil. Like it is the exact right. And so there we are, right back to the bipolar good bad thing, right?
Mhm.
But when it does real harm, it's bad.
It is bad. Yeah.
And so, when you've got young people watching stuff like that, how how are we expecting our society to be regulated or any type of nourishing environment? And that's the part that really concerns me about all of it. If it was just me, I wouldn't really care.
Yeah.
But it's not just me. I'm only asking for 8 billion of my friends, right?
Mm.
And so I think that it's really important that we even in our private lives, we call bullshit. You
Yeah.
have to.
Hmm.
So what's your favorite technique to call bullshit with?
Trust me, I'm trying everything. I mean, honestly, like, it's got to a point where, um, I mean, I don't know if I wrote about it, but like this whole kind of notion of self-censorship, like going on eggshells everywhere
Mm-hmm.
with everyone, because, you know, maybe I was brought up that way, that you can't offend people and you got to take into account their opinions and their emotions and whatever they're going through. But it's just got to a stage where I, especially in the last 6 months, just say it the way it comes, however it comes. If I'm angry, if I'm upset, if I can actually reframe it in a more kind of nice way, I will do that. But I'm ultimately not going to sit there and listen to bullshit and just let you kind of brainwash me into your way of whatever it is that you think is right, because you have been brainwashed that way. Like, it's no, no.
Yeah.
And you talk about boundaries, like we have personal boundaries, right? We wouldn't let somebody just walk straight directly into us. We'd be like, hey, what are you doing? Go around me, or like we'll kind of sidestep each other. But having like mental and emotional boundaries has to be more of a thing.
Yeah.
Like whatever's like all this information coming through your ears, through your eyes, through your nose, your mouth, you know, your kind of sensory
Mm-hmm.
experience too. There has to be boundaries on it. Like we have to. I don't want to see that. I don't want to hear that. Our kids,
Yeah.
seriously, young people are so impressionable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't even like imagine. Like, can you remember the curiosity you had as a child?
Oh yeah.
Everything. Like, what is that? What is this? Like, mom, dad, what is that? Like, what does this do? Like, you'd ask the most stupidest thing. I think it's like when we're kids, we ask like 20,000 questions or something.
Yeah.
And then you become an adult and it's like, I don't know, how much it is. Like, it's just insanely low. It's like a massive drop. We just stop asking the questions.
Yeah.
You know, we're just trying to accommodate everyone else. But no, I think that needs to stop. Whatever way that you can stop it, just stop it. I think we're getting to desperation at this point.
Yeah. Well, the the violence of words have been seriously undermined. When you think about, okay, so even the print style, the font, you go back the hundreds of years, you go back to Roman times and stuff, they had specific calligraphy that they wrote in.
Mm,
Even the font style was propaganda. The French aristocracy, they had all their own print, and all through Europe they had their own thing that they did. And if you got busted printing in a font that was not yours, you could be put to death for that. Words are that important. The presentation of the words are that important. And the violence of the words have been downplayed so dramatically. It's like I was watching this thing on YouTube yesterday about Hollywood and stuff and talking about what direction it's going to go into. And every show that they talked about was at least a R16, it was very violent, very graphic, very sexual and stuff.
mm,
And they're talking about how terrible the TV has gotten and that, what direction are they even going to go anyways when the Night of the Seven Kingdoms is the most popular show. It's the best show around. And I don't know if you've watched that or not, but
mhm.
I mean, it's lots of full frontal nudity and
Oh,
people getting hacked up. This
mm.
is this is the reigning paradigm. Are we becoming less violent?
True.
I mean, when words are violent, how are we becoming less violent? Because the verbiage has become like,
Mm,
whoa. I mean, there's always that thing in the back of my head when I'm opening a platform. I'm like, is there gonna be something negative here?
yeah.
I've had to turn comment sections off on more than one article. I don't know about you, but I was speaking from middle ground. It's not like I was saying anything that was just super outlandish. I'm just like, "Hey, we need to be nice. We can
Mm.
be compassionate." Like that kind of stuff. How how do we move past being violent with our words? How, and especially, starting with ourselves, because I think that that's where we need to start. A lot of the people that I know are very negative in their self-talk.
Mm.
how do you start to, I mean, like, what did you, and I know obviously we all have our days. This past, few weeks have been pretty crazy for everybody that I've talked to. Like, how do you recenter your strategy? How do you update your feeling? And when you are having a bad day, how do you let yourself feel better about that?
Well, I think when there is just, I mean, there is just so much information influx all the time. And I think having that empathy for yourself is so important. I mean, I went through most of my life thinking everything was my fault. If I was upset, it was my fault. If I was angry, it was my fault. If I had health issues, it was my fault. If I had like bad boyfriends, it was my fault. Like everything's my fault. Right. And then that in turn makes you like unregulated and it's a spiral. And then you have like huge anxiety and it can go really, really wrong and really, really bad so far that you can't actually bring yourself back. But having empathy for you that it is not your fault. You shouldn't blame yourself. There is so much happening and it's the system. And then once you've got that empathy for yourself and then coming back with curiosity, I think it's really important. Like, why is this happening? Who benefits from me feeling so downtrodden or so anxious or so upset or unhealthy? Like, who's going to benefit from me feeling like that? And I think these two questions are really, really important to get you back to a baseline. It kind of disassociates you from the problem instead of being like the problem is like here. No, now I've taken the problem and I've put it over there. And now I can look critically at the problem and say, well, it's now got a shape, it's got a size, it's got a color, you know, got hands and legs and like 400 eyeballs, I don't know. But I
Right.
can see it and I can now deal with it or I can walk away and I can come back and deal with it when I want to, you know? But we need to get used to kind of taking the problem out because we are not the problem. Trust me, like we are very good. When we are born, we're very good. Like we are a very good bundle of cells. We have good intention. We have good energy. Like you just got to look at kids. I mean, they're amazing.
Yeah, they don't lie. Why do we teach our young people to lie? I don't understand it. Like, and I see it all the time. Parents will shush the kid. You can't say that. You can't. Why can we not say that?
Exactly. You should be able to say what you want to say. You know, like kids that run around and like they've got so much energy. Or like a really good example that I read was disruptive kids in the classroom, right? And just when they're like little, they might stand up, they might like go over to their friend or hug their friend, or they might like go up to their mate at the front and like high five them. And they're doing genuinely like good from the heart stuff,
Mhm.
right? But that kid will probably get labeled as disruptive. They will get told off, like, no, sit down, be quiet. Like you're starting to feed all these negative behaviors back into them and commands and they themselves are feeling quite terrible about it. And that will just escalate into adulthood,
Yeah.
you know, and there will be so much stuff that happens to that kid because they are disruptive. But they are just being a kid. They are being curious about the world. They are acting from a completely pure place,
Yeah.
which probably most humans don't know how to do. And they spend like most of their life, after like 40s, 50s, or 60s or whatever, trying to get that back.
Yeah.
And then like the other part of this is like, when they get diagnosed with certain things like, oh, you have this disorder, you have that disorder, just from what basis? Like there are people that genuinely have like a medical disorder, but then there's kids that just get diagnosed with behavioral disorders when they're just being a kid.
Yeah.
You know?
We called it precocious when I was coming up. Like, and yeah, I was one of those kids. I got in trouble all the time for asking questions. And it's like, but there's a difference, and I call it. I don't think that we have an education system anymore. I think that we have an indoctrination station. It's based on Rockefeller, Prussian, 18th century,
Yeah,
19th century education standards, and they just want you smart enough to push the button.
pretty much. What did he say? He was like, I want a generation of doers, not thinkers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want them to be able to think for themselves now. We don't want that creativity. We don't want them to be smarter than us.
Right. Well, the question is dangerous,
Mm.
and I think, again, because one of the things that I do to deal with all of the noise is I have a tech-free zone. I don't take my phone in the bedroom. It's not, because that's my space to go, and not be disturbed. Um, are there other ways that you kinda disconnect yourself from so you can reconnect? Like,
Um, I think that's a really good way to like have tech free zones. And I think for city people, again, like getting out of the city, going somewhere that's, I don't want to use the word lonely, but you know, where you can kind of connect with yourself and there's not a million things to do.
right.
I wouldn't go to a touristy place and take your phone with you and then try and take pictures of everything. Like be in the moment, you know, go swimming or
I had read a statistic that at least for Americans, that most Americans would rather take their cell phone on vacation than their family. I'm like, What? Hold on, wait a minute." And I will miss taking pictures and things like that because it's on the phone, and I don't have my phone. It's in the car or whatever because I was enjoying my time. And so I'm like, "Do I buy another device to carry around?" Like, I mean, it's kind of that catch-22 there because and nobody develops film anymore. We would go buy disposable cameras that
oh,
oh,
yeah.
yeah, and you can't even get that stuff developed anymore.
Mm.
I'm like, "Why did we that was a good technology. Why did we get rid of it?"
And like the Polaroid cameras, I know they've tried to like
I do have one
make
of
them
those.
modern. They've made a
It
modern version, but it's just like
Yeah,
that's so cool.
yeah.
And
But it's still digital, though. Do you
mm,
still have to download if you wanna take a decent picture,
yeah.
you have to take the picture with your phone and then use the Polaroid as a
Yeah.
printer, so you're still creating a digital. Yeah. Yeah, like that.
So an interesting thing happened when I was away is that I think we were all at a bar or something, and we were about to like take our drinks and like you do the cheers and stuff. And what was happening is like everyone had their drink in their right hand, they had their phone in their left hand, and it was like everyone was looking at their phone while they were doing cheers with the. So nobody's actually looking at the point where you're like clinking glasses and like having like a celebration. They were all like, it was such a weird thing to see. Um, like, what are we doing? Like, you should be toasting and looking at the person opposite you and making eye contact because that's the moment. So I brought this up. And then from there on, like people couldn't, I think people just can't let go of the phone. They need the moment. So then I was like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do a toast first without the phone. Then we're going to toast again so you guys can get a photo. But, like you need to have the moment first
Yeah.
and like really kind of be with that. Be
Yeah.
with the moment. That moment's not going to come again. You're going to look at your phone and it's just going to be just a random digital photo of pixels, which mean absolutely nothing.
Right.
But having that kind of human presence connected to each other, because
Yeah.
that's the only real thing that was in the room at the time. Your glass and your table and your alcoholic drink and maybe
Right.
makeup and stuff that you're wearing or the dress that you're wearing. Like it's not real. What's real is what you're doing, the energy you're sharing with people around you.
Yeah. Well, that
And
was why you went.
yeah,
Yeah. I It's just the irony of it all. I've talked about this, performing instead of living,
yeah.
because I grew up in that weird, they even call it a zillennial. So I'm not a millennial and I'm not a zoomer. I'm a zillennial. And so it's like, but what that means is that I remember analog and I'm still adapted to the digital stuff. And there are things that the analog world had that we don't have anymore, and I doubt that most people have taken the time to consider the difference between performing life and actually living life, because so many of us create content for a living now.
Yeah.
You can't just be a accountant. You've got to have the LinkedIn profile and the business Yelp and all that other stuff, and you've got to look the thing and do the part. And so you're even performing the act of being
Mhm.
and not actually being. And so there's a real disconnect that goes on there between performance and actually living. And I think that it's really important that we remember to live while we're here, because it's
Mhm.
that fast. I'm and time is relative to experience. And what I mean by that is how you experience time. The more you have experienced, the the realization comes that it's really short.
Yeah.
If you remember your summers as a young person seem to last forever, I
Mm.
promise you go ask an 80-year-old, they're like, this is the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And, here I am at middle age, and I'm like, yeah, it's going quicker. And, so it's downhill from here kind of thing. So it's only going to go faster, right?
Mm.
We need to remind ourselves to stop and really enjoy those moments. That's one of my inner strategies, is like I like to, whenever I go somewhere, I like to think about, this is always somebody's best day and this is always somebody's worst day.
Yeah.
And just really keep that in perspective, and to remember to enjoy what I've got while I've got it, because
Mhm.
like it's all fleeting. It's gonna go away. And in 50 years, 100 years, most of us, nobody's gonna remember our names.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I think that the point is to help each other and to enjoy as much of it as we can. And, the digital, all, the dating and the tech and the malaise of information. I mean, is do you think that we've done as much good as we could have, or do you think that we've still got lots of room to work here?
There is a lot to do. I mean, there is it's like a walk. It's almost like a bit like a rabbit hole, I want to say, but it's
Hold on a second.
what?
Yes, paper plane. Go play with your dad, baby.
Wow.
Yes, I see. That's a great job.
Aerodynamic. I know. I'm working now.
He's not. Go play.
I feel like you did that one.
I can't take the phone, baby. Pictures.
So, guys, I want to hear from you, like Origins, playing with a paper plane. What do we think so far? Do you guys have any questions? Okay, there's some questions down here. Are you into conspiracy theories? Um, yes. I find like a lot of conspiracy theories have actually turned out to be true. So yeah, hello.
Oh, sorry. Carry
Yeah,
on.
no, I was just
Conspiracy
asking a
theories.
question. Yeah, I am into conspiracy theories. Origin, are you into conspiracy theories?
Oh yeah, but I like, theories are great, you know, because the theory is a hypothesis, and then we can figure out if it's true or not, and so that's the mystery for me right there.
Mm.
Um, I mean, we're still talking about the JFK assassination all this time later. These things are interesting.
When it has to be like new information, well, I don't know if it's new or if it's like uncovered information that keeps popping up
Right.
for what happened, why it happened, who was involved, who wasn't involved. You know,
Yeah.
I find it really interesting. It's kind of addictive. You want to know like what happened, why did it happen, and a lot of history is a blueprint for the future, right?
Right.
Or
No.
just patterns, right? It's just gonna. So if you can see the pattern in the past, then maybe we have more of an idea what's going to happen in the future, and we can make better decisions.
Yeah. That's That's always that's why I love history so much is, we can look back at our success and our failures and go, "Yep, we should do that again," and, "Nope, that was really bad," and,
Yeah.
I mean, but and I find I use the AI to do this a lot because I can externalize my thought processes there and, just kinda leave it hanging, and then I can come back, and I don't have to rebuild all of the context.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that we have reinvented the wheel so many times that we're kind of just stuck reinventing the wheel. You know, it's like I don't I do one thing very well, and so but we're like that, like what you were talking about, we're built for comfort and stuff, and the human mind is this amazing thing that will do this really do this really great work, and at the same time, it'll be like, "It's okay to lay on the couch for the next week." It's,
Yeah. Because that's what's going to keep you safe. So we're going to do that.
Yeah,
Mm,
but energy bleed is such a big deal, and, it seems to me like most of us are just so drained all of the time that we don't even have the energy to think about the extra stuff. We're just worried about paying the bills and keeping food,
exactly.
and I talk about that a lot, uh, survival identity and being able to thrive and think, because I've been there. It's survival identity, being stuck in that mode, literally all you can think about is just getting through the day.
Yeah.
You're not concerned with anything else, and I think that a lot of us have intentionally been stuck there, um, and through unscrupulous practices on these digital platforms, and, I'm just gonna say what it is. I don't think that they're good for us, and I think that there has been an effort to some degree on the other side. Obviously, if they're running Monte Carlo simulations and stuff like that, and they know how you're gonna respond better than you do, they're gaming us, guys. Like, they are gaming the shit out of us.
Oh,
And
I
what
think the exhaustion from all of this is real.
Yeah,
I think um, it's on purpose. It's just the system has made this happen on purpose because if you're tired, right? Like, like when was the last time you were just super tired and like things were happening, coming at you, and you were just like, you know what, fine, just do it. Like whatever, I don't even care at this point. It's probably the next day you thought like I shouldn't have done that or that shouldn't have happened. But at the point where you're exhausted, it's just like just go do it. I don't even care anymore.
yeah, yeah, and it is. When your attention is constantly being divided, you're just gonna take the easiest answers because that's all you have the energy for, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the algorithms drive me crazy because they produce this echo chamber. Like, it only surfaces the stuff that it thinks that you're gonna interact with, and
Yeah.
I that's definitely not good for us. We need some controversy in our, some pushback on our values because we get entrenched, in our beliefs and stuff. And so if you hang out with a bunch of people and you're constantly looking at information that substantiates your opinions, you're not going to listen to what
Exactly.
anybody else is saying.
Mm,
And I think that that's I like to talk to people that have different points of view than mine
mm,
because I like to be able to find common ground. I'm always looking for that space that we can come together and create something different in,
mm,
and because I've always felt so alienated from everyone else. And so I think that being able to consciously look for that is beneficial, and I don't think that we, at least, in the United States, we've been very polarized by the glowing rectangles.
mm.
And I don't think that the person on the glowing rectangle is any smarter than I am.
Yeah.
And so we have to use our better judgment here, and be confident in the answers that we find within ourselves. I think that
Mm.
that's really important. Even if somebody else is in disagreement, that's fine. We can disagree. It doesn't mean either one of us are wrong. It just
Exactly.
means that we don't agree.
Yeah.
And I that's really been very downplayed.
Mm.
You know, we've got this, everybody's so compartmentalized and so focused on optics that we can't go, we are all suffering.
Yeah.
Can we fix it? You know,
Oh,
and it's a big deal. I think um that the community actually needs to be a community again, which means communing, which is actually coming together and, sharing ideas and being in, the same space together,
yeah, I agree.
you
Mm.
know? And it's been so much fun coming on and talking to you today. I've really
Likewise.
enjoyed, pushing the paradigm and stuff. And I think that it's important that we remind each other it's okay not to know stuff.
100%. Yeah. I mean, how would we grow then? Like, honestly, how would we learn new things? How would we see other perspectives? How would we even learn like empathy if you didn't have that friction, right?
Right.
Not every friction has to create fire. It can just, create a spark and that's okay,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Yeah.
it's okay.
But fire has allowed us to, cook food, stay warm, sterilize water. I mean, make beer. Like, fire has kept us alive for a really long time. We didn't stop using it because we burned the place down a few times. We learned how to work with it.
Mm.
And I think that that's really important, is that we actually learn how to work with our technology instead of it being weaponized. This whole social media thing, this is not social.
This is not social, no. In
You're
fact, I think it almost seems like well, if you look at the comments on a lot of people's content and stuff, it's just a place for people to throw rocks
Yeah,
and not be accountable for the rock that they just threw. You know, it's almost like, if they were standing toe to toe with that person, they probably would say absolutely nothing. They would
right.
nod and probably, walk away. But
Mhm.
because you're behind a screen and the other person's behind whatever they're doing, yeah, I can say this horrible thing without any sort of evidence or basis. But just because I'm an angry person, I'm just going to say it and, you know,
Yeah. I actually I wrote about that. There was this app, it was CB Chat for Friends, right? And
Mm.
I spent years on this app talking just mad trash. And there was a bunch of British people and a bunch of Australians and, some Americans and stuff. And we would just get on there and absolutely trash each other. I mean, say some of the worst things that you could possibly say. And we had great fun. We talked about Saturday morning cartoons and stuff like that too. But the entire goal of the thing was to get the other person to shut up. It's like, I'm gonna say the thing to you that I know is going to completely undo what you, and people's marriages were ruined. There were people that got audited by the IRS. There were people that got fired. I mean, there was even a CB baby. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And, I stopped talking on there because I realized that it was a place for sociopathic behavior to thrive because there were not consequences, except for there were. And, I for a long time I prided myself on the fact that I didn't say the terrible thing.
Mm.
But what I learned being there was that the people that were saying the worst stuff were the most vulnerable,
Yeah.
and to feel empathy for them. So then my approach from that point, when they would say something negative to me,
Mommy,
would
look.
be to say, "Do you need a hug?
Mommy,
I hope you have a good day," that kind of stuff,
mommy,
because that's what they need.
mommy.
What?
What?
Great job. He has paper airplanes.
Wow.
That's
That went so far.
Yeah, it went so far. Yeah. And the future matters. And we need to be able to have conversations about where the future is going. My children aren't allowed on social media and won't be for as long as I can possibly disallow that to happen.
Mm.
I would like for it to be a nicer place
Why you on this bed?
for him to be, for them to be on. And
Mommy, don't.
I really hope that he doesn't do that. They
Mommy,
stop.
why you taking the horn?
You go play
Why
right
you-
now.
No. Will that man play for me?
I will, and you're gonna go back outside.
And play with me?
I'll be right back. No, your daddy's playing with you.
So, how are we doing? Any questions? Or algorithms should be set to community building. I agree, Alexi. I hope I'm saying your name right. Yes, I agree.
Sorry.
That's all right. It's quite
Yeah.
sweet, actually. He's been a kid.
Yeah, and he's allowed to be, and I do this because it matters, and it's not just my children, it's the future. And it's really important that we are conscious of what these systems are doing to us so we can protect ourselves and our family.
Yeah.
And it is, I like with dating and the swipe right culture and all of that stuff, I hope that for the future that we have spaces where we can still go meet each other
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
build those bonds and stuff. Like, I didn't meet my husband on a digital platform. We were introduced to each other, and that's kind of, is all sweet and whatever, but I've never been on Tinder or anything like that. And so
You'd be glad. Count your blessings. It's a terrible place.
right? I mean, but what kind of relationships are those even geared toward? Like what criteria are they matching you on? Is it, is a very superficial personality test and a couple of pictures, and then okay, well, we're gonna get together and do this thing, and then we're gonna go our separate ways? I mean, what does that do to the people that are engaging in that for, long periods of times? Because I can't imagine that self-esteem and stuff, like, that's gotta be really hard.
If you look at it, just before you even get onto the app, you just go look at an app and say, well, hold on a second. If I download this, I've got to pay for it, right? So if you've got to pay for it, it's a business. So if it's a business, they need money out of you. So how can they keep you on there? They don't want you to meet the love of your life in the first 2 matches. They need to, they've designed an algorithm that just keeps you swiping, because it's like a slot machine, right? You keep putting, the coins in, hoping that maybe the next time you'll hit the jackpot. So you're just kind of hitting the machine again and again, putting in your money. Same with a dating app, you keep paying, right? A person that's matched and is in a relationship is not going to go back on the app, they're going to delete it, right? The person almost maybe has found the suitable guy or girl or whatever that might have a decent conversation longer than 3 messages is going to stay on there. The whole thing is designed to keep you addicted, to keep you stuck on there. So I don't agree with dating apps, and I think that there are so many people that are on them, but we do need to go back to, it almost sounds like an ancient system of like going out and actually meeting people and having a conversation. And it doesn't matter what's the worst that's going to happen. You say hello, they ignore you. Like, try, have a conversation. How's your day? It doesn't have to go in with like directly what you want, but make friends, make connections, have conversations.
Yeah.
Don't rely on these algorithms to get you your soulmate or life partner or whatever you want to call it, best friend. I don't know.
Right.
We need to like snap out of it. It's a really interesting statistic. I think Tinder, if people on Tinder, only like 4% of the people that were actually on the dating app ever got a match. It's like, what does that tell you?
Wow. Wow. Yeah. So they're definitely not geared toward actually making legitimate matches.
Mm.
Th- When, again, I hate sounding old like this, and I'm not old at all, but it's just changed that much. But, when I was 21, 22 years old, the whole thing was, Friday night rolled around, you got your girls together, you did your makeup and your hair and all that, and then you went out and you had a great time. Like,
Mhm.
we were totally talent hunting, so to speak. But it wasn't even we were just going out and having fun. We were dancing, we were interacting, and, if something happened, if we happened to meet somebody, cool.
Mm.
But and I don't there's not there's not as many places anymore, at least where I'm at, there's not as many places geared toward that type of social interaction, and even the bars and stuff aren't what they
Mm.
used to be, and the music is just awful. Is I don't know what you guys are playing these days, but and I listen to EDM. It's not like I'm, listening to 70s rock music over here or anything like that. I'm not. But and I grew up listening to Ludacris and stuff. I mean, a very wide variety of music
Yeah.
here, but the stuff that the message is, what are they even talking about most of the
I
time?
I don't know. I really don't know. I listen to some songs and I'm like, I don't actually know what the point of this song is.
What does that mean?
Or like they just have one line that's just continuously repeated for like 4 minutes, and I'm like, this is the song.
Yeah. What? Go play. He's not gonna quit.
Mommy, I want you.
Okay. Say hi.
Hello.
There. All right. Hi. Mwah. Love you. Yeah. He's my little man. But it's getting back to the dating and stuff. I mean, because ultimately, isn't the goal of dating is to meet people and to have a social set and maybe a long-term relationship,
Yeah.
and
that.
the dating, we're geared toward everything being so disposable now, and you can just run out and get a new one. You
Yeah.
can go get new friends, you can go get a new mate, you can just go get a new one. Just
Yeah.
download a new app. How are you supposed to build meaningful relationships whenever you can just go get a new one?
Mm. I think it's gone so far that most people don't. If you ask them what is a meaningful relationship, I'd be very interested to know what their definition of that is.
Right.
What's the length of time? How deep does it go? How much of yourself are you giving into that? How much of the
Right.
other person do you expect? Like, these are questions that a lot of people don't talk about. So then when you are pushed, or when you talk about dating and people think, okay, I'll just go back on Tinder or Bumble or I don't know, whatever they're called, and live your life again through another interface, which essentially doesn't exist, into this kind of fake persona. And then you kind of ask yourself the question, like, why am I not connecting with this person or several people that you've been on like Tinder dates with? Well, you're connecting through these series of like zeros and ones and hoping that they'll see the real you. I
Right.
mean, a good example is like as soon as you download the app, you have to like upload like three or six photos, whatever it is. If you were genuinely trying to connect with a person from the point of view of your like authentic self, why do we go through like photos of where we look the best? You know, where our makeup's perfect or our hair's perfect or, you know, that dress fitted us well. Why would we not just take 6 clicks of like how we look right now?
Right.
You know, you're trying to put forward this version of yourself that doesn't necessarily exist. And the question is like, will they like me for me? Or no, more importantly, the question is like, will I like this person that comes in front of me? Am I genuinely going to connect with them and enjoy their company? Or is it the question of, are they going to swipe on my profile and write something, you know, about how pretty I am or how attractive I am?
Right. And there's the dopamine slot machine right there. That's wow. Yeah, because you don't want, because that's the performance. That's what I, like that is performing the act of you versus actually just being you. And I think that the candid photos would actually go a lot further
Exactly.
if you're looking for a meaningful relationship versus if you're just looking for something that's very superficial or physical.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're just there to engage in promiscuity, then yeah, you're going to be concerned about who looks the best.
Yeah.
Versus, well, this chick has actually got enough confidence to put herself out there in a t-shirt or a sweatshirt or whatever, I mean, and we say that we want to be understanding and we say that we want to be better, but at the end of the day, when things like that are still, I mean, that's just straight up a beauty contest. That sounds like Miss America to me.
Yeah.
Except you've got millions of people internationally engaged in this beauty contest.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a good place to build relationships. So what do you think is a better alternative to that?
I mean, I would say,
If there is one.
do you know what? I think the best thing is to go out and meet people. You know how it used to be, I think like 10 years ago, people would go out, they would go to bars, they'd go to restaurants, they'd want to have conversations. I mean, just generally, like, just.
Mommy has my daddy not birthday for you. Hello, happy birthday to you.
Thank you, baby. Go play.
Ma, em not already had that doll.
He snuck in here. He brought me a rock.
That's so cute.
But go ahead.
Yeah, just to like sidestep the dating, just people generally interacting with themselves, like between themselves. People don't really say hello. How are you? I'd be surprised if I walked down the street and people even smiled to acknowledge my existence. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So, there's the basic skills to then go out into a bar or a restaurant and have a conversation with a kind of whoever that you find attractive, and not have that expectation for it to go anywhere, but just to start having connection again. That's the best thing. But I think the generations is just it's going to be difficult to come back from this, honestly.
Yeah.
When the bare minimums are missing, like how do you, unless you re-educate on the bare minimums of how to have a basic conversation without any agenda, I don't know.
I read etiquette books when I was young.
In school we were taught we were taught etiquette. We were taught how to behave, hold doors open, say please and thank you. It's not generally, it's a huge generalization, but I just don't think it's there, or it's very slowly bleeding out.
Yeah, I have met people that thought that being required to say please and thank you was some type of slight against them, and I'm like, but that shows that you're respectable. Like you yourself deserve respect because you are respecting other people, and respect is not something that you can demand. I mean, that is just absolutely earned. And if you don't say please and thank you to me, I'm not going to have much respect for you.
Yeah.
because you're demanding of me, and you start demanding stuff of me, I will die before I do something. Like, I just cannot. And but it's bad. It's really bad. And again, the education system is so concerned with indoctrinating young people that they're not teaching them basic skills.
Yeah. Human skills.
Human skills, yeah. Wet skills, like you're dealing with wetware here. We got to have these skills to, be able to get a job and to be able to buy groceries and stuff. But then again, you don't anymore because you've got an app or the internet, and you might go in for an interview or you might not. But most of the time, you're going to end up taking a personality test.
Yeah.
And that stuff doesn't make a lot of sense to me because
No.
if you don't have the human, then what is the point of it?
Yeah.
And and that's why I built a platform and all of that stuff, because I'm like, we need to have systems that actually serve the humans versus the humans serving the platforms. And the trend toward digital servitude is really scary.
Yeah.
You know, because as AI becomes more prevalent and stuff, and they're talking about AI oversight and all of that stuff, and I'm like, but AI is constantly hallucinating, and it, like, every time that it generates a response for you, it says it may be wrong. You need to double check these responses. How how are we going to hand over control to something that needs every response checked? Humans need every response checked.
Mhm.
That's why we have checks and balances.
Yep.
You can't say over here that it's okay and then it not be okay over here. That is a bias, that is a double standard. And so who does this benefit?
That's the main question. That's like such a big question. Who benefits from this? From
You
it
know,
being this way?
I always say follow the money.
Mm.
You wanna know the answer to a question? Find the money. That's the cause.
Mm.
Like 99% of the time, that's it. And it's really sad that as sacred beings that we've relegated ourselves to this monetization.
Yeah.
But it brings me, like, Substack brings me a lot of hope.
Yeah.
Because I can come on here and I can talk to people like you and Hal Gill and other people, and there's common ground.
Yeah.
And we're here having these conversations and keeping each other awake. And that's our job. That's what
Mm.
we're meant to do, is to form those connections.
Yeah.
And bystander effect is real. Are you familiar with bystander effect?
Yeah.
So, but most people they're just like, somebody else is gonna come and they're gonna take care of it.
Yeah. It's not my problem. It's the guy behind the tree.
Yeah.
It's my problem.
If it's burning down, it's everybody's problem, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Again, we're all here together. We're all going the same place together, and we're all made of the same stuff. Why not sound the alarm?
Yeah. Mm.
And I think that it's so nice and it's very refreshing to be able to come here and to have these conversations and to find like-minded people, because they've told us that we're alone and we're not.
We're not. No.
And at this point, I think that there's even more of us than there are of them. I definitely know that there's more of us at the bottom than at the top. And our attention at this point, our energy is the most valuable commodity on the planet.
Yeah.
And so if you start depriving these platforms of your attention, do the digital fasting. Take the time out every day and put the devices down and go do something that is a human activity. Bake bread or wash your hair or, just something that's all human and it's all you. And that's how you start punching back at the system because everybody's like, oh, well, it's just me on my own. It
Mhm.
is. You're right. But you're the one that's devoting your attention to it.
Yeah. Be a child again. If you're ever stuck on where to start to become human again, just think of how you were when you were a child.
Yeah.
Not the experiences, but more the behaviors. Like, what behaviors did I do as a child? Did I dig out this plant? Did I eat the mud? I mean, I'm not saying do that, but like be curious, climb things, ask the questions, ask the stupid questions. I think it's like there's no such thing as a stupid question, just a stupid answer, Like, do it.
Yeah.
If you have kids, like roll around with them on the floor. I don't know, just be a kid again.
Yeah.
Because that's where you rediscover what it is to be human. Like, kids are born, they have no fears. Like, I
Right.
think that you're born with two fears as a baby,
Yeah.
which is loud noises and falling down.
Yep.
Why not get back to that? What are we so scared of? What's the worst that's going to happen?
Right. You're going to be afraid. I mean, and we fear the unknown, and because we have so much information now, we're constantly being inundated with it. And so it's
Mm.
either good information or it's misinformation, but it's all still information. And so people are having a really hard time being able to make those decisions and being dirty or being out with the bugs or whatever is really, again, that's been stigmatized. And it's like, no, that's where we came from.
Yeah.
That's where we came from. I can tell the difference in how, like, dirt smells. Like, good dirt versus sick dirt. I can tell the difference, like, immediately, from smelling and looking and stuff. And when I was in Chicago, it was all sick.
Mm.
All the dirt was sick. And I'm like, it was so. But even in those moments of being in that space, I was still able to have fun and to wonder because it was something that was new and it was exciting. Getting back out into the world, absolutely, I love that, and taking your childlike wonder with it. I mean, that's absolutely fabulous. We forget to play,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
playing those games and building those communication skills back is a really big deal. I'm I'm so it it makes me very hopeful to know that there is a place that we can come and start to heal and to
Yeah.
encourage each other. And I don't know how long Substack's gonna be like this because, when like what you were talking about when the internet started, there was so much information available and it was, free and fair kind of deal. And we didn't protect our wild space.
No.
And we those are the areas that need the most protection because they are wild and they are important. They are so valuable. And getting back to that wildness, I think is just, yeah, 100%. I agree with you there. I talk about being a wild woman.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing.
It's not. And like, there's a very good book. It's quite famous actually. The Women That Run with Wolves.
Mm, I have.
Um, I would recommend it. I've just started reading it, but it talks about the wild woman. It talks about and it talks about wild in the context of natural, like going back to who you naturally are as a woman.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I'm just like not going to shave or like turn into this like hairy beast. No, it's talking about your characteristics as a woman. We're different from men, right? We have completely different skill sets, different genetics. We're built differently. And as women, we don't appreciate how incredibly powerful we are. We have
Right.
intuition. Intuition is a massive thing for women.
Mhm.
Like, we just know things. And a lot of the time, like, men around us will be like, how did you know that? We just know.
Yeah.
Right. And this is, and women, so many women I know that walk around and they just don't, they're not in touch with this wild side of them. going back to who you really are, that human unconsciousness, like go back there and appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because trust me, if somebody flicks off the internet switch tomorrow, we're like everyone's done for. So you need to be at one with ourselves, and that community is so important for the community to be at one with itself too.
Yeah. Well, like I have this theory about the village, because the village has survived all of the empires falling, all of the ecological disasters and everything. We've always fallen back to those small 50 to 100 community groups, and we're able to work in a network together that represented decentralized power.
Mm.
The empire is the epitome of centralization, and that's why the 10-minute cities and stuff like that is because that's the goal, is to centralize that power and to deprive us of the village. We
Yeah.
cannot let the village go.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
That the minute that comes in and becomes a thing, and that becomes the norm, that's pretty much it. It's very difficult to go back
Yeah.
on that.
Well,
So-
and we're just a generation out from no one remembering that even.
Mm.
The skills that my grandmother and my great grandmothers that they possessed, those aren't even baking bread. It's not
Yeah.
even something that I had to learn how to do. I actually had to teach myself how to bake bread in the wood burning stove with this, like I did the thing, because it is that tenuous, I mean, we're just one natural disaster away from no grid.
Yeah.
And no grid, what do you do?
Yeah.
Bread's pretty basic.
And like even the stuff you mentioned earlier, like you said about the difference between the dirt, like that is actually a very huge skill, because that could be the difference between like literally life and death.
Yeah.
But where are these skills? Like this is the first time I've heard someone say that, but where are these skills?
Yeah, well, it's time spent, that's not something I've read a bunch of books and stuff, but ultimately the books weren't able to teach me the difference in the smell.
Mm.
It's just something that I've seen a bunch, but I take care of the dirt because it takes care of me.
Yeah.
And it's not my dirt. I belong to the dirt. This
Exactly.
is not the
Yeah.
same. I am not an owner. I'm a shepherd here, and
Yeah.
I just tend it.
Mm.
And that's the difference between, at least that I have found, the biggest difference between men and women is that men like to dominate things, and most women are more into symbiotic systems and learning how to actually cooperate and stuff. And no shade to anyone, because there's room at the table for everybody.
Yeah.
If we started playing to our strengths as opposed to leading with our weaknesses, we could really get somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's the whole, empowerment. That's what we need here. And there are no bad answers. It's just not asking the question. We have to be able to ask the questions and be able to sit with the uncertainty.
Mm.
That's, for me, that's really, we don't know where this is going, but we need to be prepared that we might have to fall back and not rely on our technology. So, that's why I did the gardening with AI thing, because it doesn't seem like it goes together, but I was able to use the AI to come up with a plan, and it was a good plan. And the gardening books are like, and there are millions of gardening books, and so you can really get quagmired with that information. But being able to use the tech to implement the human stuff, I think that's where we need to be. Is how can we make these human processes easier? Not how can the human make the technological process easier.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't care if the computer has a hard time. It should have a hard time. It's a computer. Me, I need to be comfortable.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we weren't put here to have a hard life or to be controlled or to be at the mercy of someone else. We're all our own. We're all sovereign. So that's the way we should live our lives, right? Why are we at the mercy of something else or some system, whether it's a microsystem, whether it's a macro system? No, we are the ones in control of ourselves primarily. And then everything else after that is how does it make our life easier and better and more fruitful and more fulfilling?
Yeah. Yeah. In harmony. I mean, that's just if we could just get together on a few ideas, it would really be just, so amazing. And, you know, uh, once once you take away the idiosyncrasies, at the end of the day, we have so much in common across the world. I mean, we're food, water, shelter, safety. I mean, that's the big deal. Some connection is nice, but that's not even required for living,
Yeah.
So I mean, at the end of the day, we just have to remember that we're all humans and we're just doing what we can do,
Yeah.
and I like to be kind, and I like to be helpful. That might not be great for other people. Some people might not be into that, and that's okay too. Sometimes you got to be rude. Sometimes you have to be okay with saying I don't want to listen to that.
Oh,
And but people mistake kindness for weakness, and it's
true.
not the same.
No, it's not.
And I think that there's a real strength that comes from being kind. So, we have to be kind to ourselves, and we have to remember to remind each other
Yeah.
that it does matter. Anybody can go out of their way to make a bad day, but it's much harder to have a good one,
Mm,
And I think about I can always make a friend, but I can't always make my enemy my friend.
yeah.
So I always try to be friendly with everybody.
Yeah.
And but these are just, little practices that I've come up with over the years that have in my perception, helped me. I don't know if they actually have or not. And if you talk to other people, I'm sure that they would have a very different opinion about the situation. But here's at the end of the day, staying true to self and doing what you feel like is the best for not just yourself,
Mm,
but for your environment as well. That practice of being mindful, I think, is really, really important,
agreed.
So I just thank you so much for coming and spending this time with us today. And yeah, I want to respect your time. We've been here for an, almost 2 hours now.
Has it
So
been? It's just gone really fast.
it, we're at 12 minutes and it'll be 2 hours.
Well,
So yeah, no, great conversation. This has been so much fun and would love to do it again.
oh yeah.
Um, Thank you everybody so much for showing up and asking questions, and we will
Mommy, me want water in the
get back
pond.
on here.
Mommy, mommy, me want water in the pond.
No, we're not watching anything on my phone right now. But yeah, we'll get together here in a couple of weeks or something. We'll get our schedules together and do
We'll do that. Yeah. Thank you.
This has been so great. And anything you want to plug, or go ahead and promote your Substack and all that good stuff.
Oh, I didn't think about doing that. Yeah. I'm in a strategy. Come like, subscribe, read my stuff. I welcome comments. I welcome information. I also welcome stuff that you would love me to detangle or attempt to detangle. Yeah, it's all learning. And yeah, I'm just grateful to have this space to be able to have this conversation. Honestly, it's very difficult in today's day and age to find people that you can have good level conversations with.
Yeah.
And there's so much growth.
Hey,
in the
mommy.
conversation.
Me mom
So-
wants giant bun.
Very grateful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you have buy me a coffee paywall? Do you do the
I
subscribers?
do have,
free to
I
pay?
do have, yeah, I do have buy me a coffee. I do have a paid wall as well. Yeah, go check it out. Go check out my posts and see what you like.
Yeah, everybody, Inner Strategy, Substack, awesome podcast. Thank you so much. Buy her a
you.
coffee, subscribe. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.